Hello everyone, I'm Christina, and today I wanted to talk about some interesting finds that I've had um, concerning global things going on around the world that I think you'll find pretty interesting. The first thing I wanted to start off with was not long ago they started talking about a volcano in the Caribbean called Kikumjeni. That's an undersea volcano that is threatening to erupt. So, that was two undersea anomalies. And then we find out that in Japan, they are talking about a volcano. What were they saying? That could kill 100 million people if it explodes, right? Could trigger a volcanic winter, is what it said. Anyway, it was formed after a volcano supereruption in the area 7,300 years ago, which created a caldera. Okay, that was interesting enough. But then I came across this article, right? And it wasn't published that long ago. It was published on December 4th, 2017, so it wasn't that long ago, and it was from Newsweek. It's called Underwater Volcano Eruptions Sound Like Shotguns and Can Travel 10,000 Miles Through the Ocean. So this was just a few months ago, and they're talking about what underwater volcanic eruptions sound like. Can travel 10,000 miles through the ocean. I thought that was also very interesting. So I started reading this article, and like right away it just started blowing my mind, okay? Because we'd read an article that said that there were thousands of undersea volcanoes, but this one says buried in the depths of the oceans, over 1 million enormous underwater volcanoes puncture the seabed. Their violent eruptions are extremely powerful and very difficult to detect in the early stages, but new recordings may help scientists map these incredible events much more quickly. Okay, so they're using these microphones, and believe me, the interesting article gets even more interesting because at some point it says that undersea volcanic eruptions are more common than above where you can see them. They're more common under the sea. Okay, yep, there it is. In fact, far more volcanoes erupt under the sea than on land, as well as terrifying local divers. They can produce blankets of floating rocks, blocking seaports and damaging boats. Okay, they're saying that volcanic activity is usually monitored using seismology devices buried deep below the ground that pick up vibrations, but eruptions can drastically sound different. Now, at the very end of this article is something that I found extremely interesting. It said, just like noises above the sea, she explains, objects like walls can make it harder to listen to sound. Scientists can use both seismic and audio instruments to build a better picture of underwater volcanic eruptions. According to a press release, the signs of an underwater volcanic eruption can be picked up by whale song monitoring devices. Okay? TEP said in the release, it makes you wonder how many of these signals have we seen on distant instruments where nobody knew what they were, and it's a submarine volcano from halfway around the world. And last night, Dabu77 did a video on one of these pulses that came from around Africa to Florida, and he's been seeing them come from Antarctica to Florida, or just out, that's it's pulsing. So, and I know that we have satellites that have like radars and everything, but what I noticed was interesting about what Dabu, the points he was seeing, and Rush Fan 9th Command was also bringing this to my attention too. What I noticed was that in each of these areas there are volcanoes. You know, around the area in Africa, that's where the plate is where he saw like the pulse, and along that plate is just riddled with volcanoes. Okay, Antarctica is riddled with volcanoes. Okay, and Florida, and it says that these pulses, once they hit land, that's when they stop. They tend to stop, because they tend to hit these walls, you know, and I came across a couple more things actually. I went ahead and I decided to check out the volcanoes that are currently active right now that are above ground, okay? Because again, the undersea ones are harder to detect, but they do occur more often. So you want to check out how many above sea ground on land volcanoes we're having problems with, and like right off the bat, it's like this cluster of stupid. All right, it's like there's like 20 here and like 20 over here and like another 10 in the middle, and they're all in different stages of, you know, irritation to eruption. Okay, and we've got about, it looks like 20 in the stage of active eruption. This is an article I'm seeing from today, or like a currently active volcanoes, what's erupting, volcano discovery is who this is by. Okay, but I also found one more very, very interesting thing. As you, well, not all of you might know that this channel, because a lot of you are new, and I want to welcome all of you to my channel, but this is a channel where the Bible and science meet. Okay, so it might be a little confusing that, you know, I'm so scientific on my channel, but you know, God created everything. His hands are in everything. So, you know, knowing that He uses nature to show us things, you know, it's kind of something that I think goes in hand in hand, you know. But one of the visions that I'd had, which really started this channel, was that God was telling me the peace deal was coming up. And this is before the woman of Revelation 12 sign was in the sky. He was telling me this peace deal is coming up. And that if the United States had anything to do with dividing Israel, this is what would happen. And I wasn't the only one who had seen a vision of America split from the Gulf up, right? And considering the mirroring of the events, disasters that have happened that were, you know, happening at the time that we were messing with Israel before, you know, how the events mirrored whatever was being touched in Israel, you know, even with Katrina. And so I naturally was wondering what the Gulf of Mexico had to do with the Israel-Palestinian peace deal. I've always wondered that because I knew that that had to be significant, right? And then I came up with this article. Oh my gosh. Oh, here it is. Yes, that was just published like a day or two ago. It's talking about the peace deal for the Palestinians and Trump and, you know, Israel, you know, all together. And the title says, under New Deal, Palestinians to be offered less than half of the West Bank. But right underneath that, it's just like a subtitle or a sentence, you know, just anyway, it says the deal is, it appears, being cooked up with cooperation of Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and the Gulf states. The Gulf states. Now, when you look up on Google, there are two different areas of the world that are referred to as the Gulf states. And obviously, we've got the Gulf states here in the Gulf of Mexico, but you also have the states that are referred to as Gulf states around the Persian Gulf, which are United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, and Iran. All right, that's, you know, the Persian Gulf states. And those guys are helping to cook up this peace deal with Trump. And Egypt, of course, is helping to convince the Palestinian Abbas to kind of go along with it, because there's a lot at stake right now, maybe more than ever for them. But there's the tie. The Gulf states, you know, are involved with this peace deal. Somehow it's tying to the Gulf of Mexico. But I thought that was very interesting, you know, and that pulse, it might not necessarily be all that all the time, but I think that undersea volcanoes should definitely be looked at as a potential cause for some of these mimic sounds and pulses, some of them, not all of them, but some of them, considering that they can travel the way that they do. Okay, of course, it would let off some kind of pulse, and water carries. So, that's all that I wanted to just give you today, is that, we do have a lot of science going on, but we have a lot of biblical prophecy going on at the same time. And when the world decided to get involved in this peace deal, was different than before, because, America was usually the one dabbling in it. But this time, people got together and signed a resolution together. They're going against Israel as a world. And so you're seeing our world just topsy-turvy, and it's going to take repentance on levels that I think, right now mankind is a little bit too stubborn to see, you know. But Jesus Christ is waiting, and I wouldn't be wasting too much time thinking about that, because every day we've got people dying from all different kinds of crazy reasons, like a bridge collapses, or a freak tsunami comes in, or a landslide happens in the Swiss Appalachian Mountains. You might find yourself in an 81 car pileup, okay? Right now, you need to look inside of yourself here and take a look around, and don't be so stubborn. I mean, it's all for the greater good anyway, and I want good things for you. All right, I know that a lot of you have had a lot of suffering. I'm not gonna sit here and say I haven't been one of those people, but there is something beyond that sadness and that suffering and that anger, okay? There's something much better, and maybe we're not meant to be here much longer, but all of this, all of this together, if it was just one volcano, or if it was just maybe one prophecy that might be coming true, but it's not. It's like the whole pot of soup, I mean, it's unmistakable, and one other thing I wanted to talk about was, there are just things that my pastors talked about that aren't talked about so much. And one of the things they talked about was acid rain. And, the carbons and, the pollutants, the carbon dioxide, and it combines with the water and the oxygen in the air, the water vapor, and it comes down as acid rain. Well, polluting our environment can do that. But guess what else can? Volcanoes erupting. And again, we have a ton of them, all right? So you're going to have to get some kind of protection for your plants, all right? And the acid rain can make our water bitter, okay? So you might want to look into that, if you start seeing strange things happening to your plants, because you really can't tell at first the difference between acid rain and regular rain. Okay, but you can see the effects of it. So anyway, that's all I wanted to just kind of cover today. And I wanted to thank you all for coming by and hanging out with me like you have been. And, I'll talk to you real soon. Okay, God bless you all. Bye.